Major League Baseball and the MLB Players Association have sent proposals to each other focusing on ways to improve the game, Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic reports. MLB's biggest suggestion would create a 3-batter minimum for pitchers in an effort to reduce the amount of pitching changes made by managers, oftentimes grinding the game to a halt, particularly if it's a mid-inning substitution. Among the union's suggestions is a universal designated hitter beginning this year. According to Rosenthal, citing Commissioner Rob Manfred, the union has been trying to get the DH in the National League for more than 3 decades. The American League adopted the DH rule in 1973. The union also suggested lowering a team's draft position if it fails to reach a certain number of wins across multiple seasons. That would address the issue of tanking, which has plagued baseball for close to a decade. Per Rosenthal, if the union and MLB don't reach an agreement, Manfred still has the power to unilaterally implement 3 rules changes he proposed last year: a 20-second pitch clock, reducing mound visits from 6 to 5, and placing a runner on second base to start extra innings beyond the 10th inning in spring training games and the All-Star Game. In the current proposal MLB sent to the MLBPA, the league seeks to reduce mound visits from 6 to 4 in 2019 and then down to 3 in 2020. The league also seeks, for the 2020 season, to expand to a 26-man roster while reducing expanded rosters in September from 40 to 28. These ideas are certainly interesting, to say the least. I'm not sure I buy any of them as they are presented. Implementing a universal DH rule with less than 2 months before the start of the regular season seems unfair to NL teams that don't have the right roster construction and wouldn't have enough time to properly address it. That being said, a universal DH would help boost defense, which has been lagging for most of this decade. Creating a 3-batter minimum would reduce scenarios like the one Rosenthal mentions in his article. Brewers manager Craig Counsell using lefty Wade Miley for 1 batter before replacing him with right-hander Brandon Woodruff in Game 5 of the NLDS against the Dodgers, but it would limit managerial strategy, which is one of the aspects of baseball that, at least in this writer's humble opinion, make it interesting. Perhaps a better alternative would be to create a discrete limit on the amount of pitchers a team can carry on its active roster. If we make that number, say, 12 on a 26-man roster, then teams still have the flexibility to make their pitching changes when they want to, but they would have to consider a faster depletion of resources. Speaking of the 26-man rosters, great idea. One more active roster spot creates at minimum 30 more major league jobs across the league, which is terrific in and of itself. The added space may make teams more willing to sign less versatile players, as we've seen a dearth of interest in power-hitting first base types in recent years in favor of more versatile, defensively capable players. Shrinking the September rosters from 40 to 28 would hurt prospects and so-called quadruple A players who aren't quite good enough to make a regular 25-man roster, but are more than good enough to handle AAA competition. September call-ups accrue service time just like any other player, and since there would be 360 fewer spots available, at least 360 players would have slower progress towards arbitration and free agency. On the other hand, September is a critical month of the season for obvious reasons, and it is often marred when teams that are dead in the water don't try to win since they have the opportunity to give their younger, less experienced players major league at-bats and innings. Teams in the hunt for a playoff spot that just happen to get lucky and play 4th and 5th place teams in September get what are essentially free wins against these teams. Teams that aren't so lucky may miss out on a playoff spot through no fault of their own. The best idea of the bunch is the penalty for teams failing to hit a certain win threshold over multiple seasons. It is unclear if the suggestion is that a team must hit at least X wins once in a span of Y years, or an aggregate total of Z wins over Y years. Either way, incentivizing teams to be at least somewhat competitive is a good thing. It will reduce teams shamelessly tanking, and it very likely would also prevent teams from shamelessly manipulating the service time of their top prospects. Who are we kidding? Teams are going to gain players' service time until there's an explicit rule changing it. Follow it Bear. Bill. Former Astros slugger Lance Berkman got just 5 of 425 votes in his first year of eligibility on the Hall of Fame ballot. Due to getting less than 5% of the vote, he fell off and can only later be considered by the Today's Game committee. Fox 26's Mark Berkman asked Berkman for his thoughts on dropping off of the ballot. Berkman said, slightly edited for clarity, "It's hard to figure that a guy in Edgar Martinez, who had a great career, gets 85% of the vote and I virtually had the same career and I get less than 5%. So there's something off about that. It sounds like sour grapes and maybe it is a little bit, but the only thing you can do is keep moving forward." Berkman is right about one thing: offensively, the two were very similar. He retired with a .943 OPS and a 151 adjusted OPS, also known as OPS, which accounts for league and park effects. Martinez retired with a .933 OPS and a 147 OPS. Martinez, however, accrued 68.4 wins above replacement during his 18-year career, according to Baseball Reference. Berkman accrued 52.1 WAR. Fangraph's version of WAR puts Martinez at 65.5 and Berkman at 56.0. WAR accounts for quality of defense as well as the importance of positions played. Martinez spent 4,605 and a third defensive innings at third base and had some above-average seasons with the glove, at least according to still questionable defensive data. Baseball Reference put him at 17 runs above average with the glove. Berkman spent 6,345 innings at first base, 4,189 and two-thirds in left field, 2,898 in right, and 1,292 and a third in center. Baseball Reference says Berkman was 15 runs below average with his glove overall. Additionally, WAR penalizes DH as the heaviest, followed by first basemen and corner outfielders. Third basemen get a slight bump in the adjustment. As for hardware, Martinez twice won a batting title and won 5 Silver Slugger awards. Berkman never won a batting title or a Silver Slugger. Martinez led the league in runs scored once, doubles twice, RBI once, on-base percentage 3 times, and OPS once. Berkman led the league in doubles twice and RBI once, but otherwise never led the league in any other category. Part of that was playing most of his career in the same league as Barry Bonds, but still. Berkman's off-field work once his career was over could have impacted his popularity, not unlike Hall of Fame candidate Curt Schilling. In September 2015, Berkman spoke for a group, Campaign for Houston, opposed to a ballot initiative in Houston known as the Houston Equal Rights Ordinance, which would have provided equal protection for transgender people in public bathrooms. Berkman rightly received criticism at the time. He appeared as a guest on a Houston radio station a month later and said, "To me, tolerance is the virtue that's killing this country. We're tolerant of everything. You know, everything is okay, and as long as you want to do it and as long as it feels good to you, then it's perfectly acceptable to do it. Those are the kinds of things that lead you down a slippery slope and you'll get in trouble in a hurry." Craig spoke with Berkman at length about his comments and made a post about it, which is worth rereading. It's quite possible the support for Berkman wasn't there, to some degree, due to his anti-LGBTQIA work. Hall of Fame voters are younger and more progressive thinking than they used to be. Berkman has been mostly quiet since his 2015 foray into politics. But the Cardinals did invite him to Christian Day in 2017. The club immediately received criticism for that decision and defended itself. That wasn't Berkman injecting himself back into the spotlight, but perhaps it helped the event linger in the memories of voters. Lastly, Martinez was on the ballot for the 10th and final time and got in with 85.4% of the vote thanks to a sustained and energetic campaign by advocates. Berkman had no such noteworthy campaign. If Hall of Fame voters strictly considered only offensive numbers for position players, then the disparity in votes for Martinez and Berkman wouldn't have made sense. But there are plenty of other factors that led to his getting just 1.2% of the vote. He is welcome to feel salty about it, at any rate. Follow @Bear.